Are you selling full, unspecified ownership of your design work when you could be licensing? In this video, I'm going to talk about what I've learned about licensing, how I implement it into my own freelance career, my own projects, and what changed for me and the amount of money I make from design when I learned about licensing. This video is a little bit different to the usual type of content I post, but if you follow me elsewhere, this is something I talk about all the time. Being a designer or being a good designer is not just knowing how Photoshop works or knowing how to create cool visuals. It's also about conducting yourself in a way that is fair to you, your clients, and the work you produce. To get straight into it, a really helpful first step that you can take to increasing your income from design as a freelancer is by viewing your work as intellectual property rather than just a JPEG or a PNG or an MP4 or a deliverable, basically. So what I mean by that is, ultimately, when you sell something to a client, what you are actually selling is the permission or the license to use whatever it is that you've created for them. Now, obviously there's going to be all kinds of different freelancers who do all types of different projects. The deliverables are not always the same, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to use the example of a designer who might work on merchandise. So that is things like packaging, actual t-shirt designs, or like a design for a garment, a sticker design, or a design for something that is going to be sold effectively. So if you do a good job of whatever it is you may have been commissioned to design, then you can be further rewarded for your good work if you correctly license that piece of work to your client. So this might mean taking less money in the short term to earn more money in the long term. And the way you do that is at the very start of the project, you find out what your client is actually wanting to use your work for. So in the example I just gave, if I'm a client and I'm commissioning you for a sticker design, funnily enough, I do have some stickers here of mine sat here. But yeah, if you are commissioned by me for a sticker design and you do a really good job, so I list the stickers on my shop, or I throw them in with like a bundle of like a t-shirt and some other stuff, and the stickers are really popular, they do really well, and I now want to print your sticker design on a tote bag or a t-shirt or a hoodie. Because you licensed that design to me rather than just selling it to me outright, I've now got to come back to you legally and say, the sticker design sold out, we now want to do a tote bag, and I'm renegotiating the license with you to print it on a tote bag. Now, the difference there is obviously initially you've not sold full ownership of the work, so you've probably took a little bit less money to start with, but because you did good work, you're rewarded by being paid again for the same design, so you don't actually have to do any more work when the license is renewed. But the client, if they want to keep selling it, if they want to keep making money from your work, they have to come back to you and talk to you again. Now, the reason this is more fair for you and more fair for the client is because the client is absorbing less risk because they're not buying the design outright from you to start with. They get to go and see whether this design sells well, or they get to see if their audience, their market, whatever it is, likes your design without the risk of buying it outright. So they would pay less money to you for the license, so that if your work was actually terrible and it didn't sell, then they didn't buy it outright, they've saved some money. It's more fair for you because if you do good work, as I said, you can get paid more than once for the same thing. Charging someone to use your work for their business means you keep ownership of the work long term, and as a result, you can earn more money if your work is good. Understanding the value of ownership will allow you to change your perspective on design, whatever world of design you're working in, and help you make better decisions and increase your income from design, basically. Now, the other way this comes up is if you are to offer a license to someone who wants full ownership, then that is your signal that this person knows what they're doing. Usually major labels, big record labels, big merchandising companies, big corporate clients who have lots of experience in whatever market they're going into will by default not work with you unless you offer full ownership of the work. They'll use words like full and perpetual, and you know, they'll word it into their contracts and stuff so that you don't keep anything. But by offering a license or asking about ownership early on, you can identify a client that essentially has more of a budget. If you never bring up ownership and you allow them to just bring it up first after you've maybe given a price or after you've discussed all the deliverables and everything, then you've maybe missed an opportunity to charge a corporation more money. For me, like, I don't know how everyone else freelances, but for me personally, like, I would never charge an individual the same as I would charge a corporation. To me, if you're a corporation, if you're like, especially if you're like on the stock market and stuff and you're wanting to own my work, then you're going to be paying for that a lot more than someone who is just an independent musician or an independent brand who have less of a budget. So licensing can help you make money more than once from the same design. Licensing or asking about licensing can help you identify bigger clients when you need to, but licensing can also help you convert a no from a client into a yes. So as I just said, smaller brands, independent people, they don't have as much of a budget, generally speaking, as a big corporation. So that means sometimes if you're asked to design something for an independent client, the price you offer genuinely might not be doable for that client, or it might just be a bit intimidating. They might not want to risk investing however much money it is you're asking for in you when they've not worked with you before, or there can be a number of reasons. And it's at this point where if you can offer someone who can't afford to buy your work outright a license for a lesser amount of money. So for example, if it is going to cost me £1,000 or $1,000 or whatever to purchase a t-shirt, merchandise, design, front and back print from you for my brand, and I don't have that, I wouldn't be approaching you if I didn't have some kind of budget. So if you come back to me and say, that's fine that you can't do £1,000 or whatever, maybe you could license this design you want from me for X amount per year, or if there's anything in my portfolio of personal work that you want to license, I can license that to you for however much money a year. And that way, like, if your work does really well for this client and it makes them a lot of money, in a year's time, they're going to be coming back to you either to renew the license, or they can now afford your £1,000 commission fee and hire you to own a design. Talking about licensing and viewing your work as more than just a deliverable file allows you to have better and more open conversations with your clients about money. And ultimately, it's way more fair for both people if your price for ownership is up here and your price for licensing is down here. We've all had clients try to lowball us. We've all had clients who hear the £1,000 price or hear the £500 price, or wherever you're at in your career. You get people who hear that price, who hear that number, and they want to knock you down to less. So if you're going to allow people to knock you down to less, then at least do that with something like a license with a set amount of time or a set amount of units in the license. So like 1,000 t-shirts in the license, 1,000 stickers in the license, or 100 stickers, or whatever you want to do, so that if you do good work for this client who has ultimately tried to lower your price, then they're going to come back to you and pay you again because your work was good, your work made them money. Your work is not just a JPEG, it is intellectual property that has value. And once you've established yourself and either your own art style, or just if you're someone who has a few big names in your portfolio and you're looking to like what the next step up is for you in freelance, then learning about licensing for some people is that next step. If this is a new concept to you, just make a habit of asking what your work will actually be used for at the start of a project. So for example, if I'm a client and I approach you and I just ask you, oh, I want you to make this design that looks like this in your portfolio, can you just make me this? You might just be inclined to say, yeah, that'll cost this much money, but instead say, yes, what are you wanting to use this design for? You'll find out a little bit more about the project by asking that, and it will help you make informed decisions about if you should be offering a license, full ownership, how much you should charge, and things like that. It also gives you a really good gauge of how experienced and serious your client is. Some clients, when you ask them, what are you going to use my work for? They might just say, it's a poster design. So that is the sign of someone who's maybe not that experienced. But other people will come back and say, we're using it on this t-shirt, this garment, we need this deliverable for you in this color profile and this file format, and we're printing on this amount of garments and it's going to be sold at this venue or this website. Like, the different kinds of responses you will get to licensing questions and ownership questions will very, very quickly identify who is serious business, big money, more money than an independent client, and who is maybe needing like a little bit of help understanding what they're actually commissioning for you. I'm not going to say who or like what piece of work in my portfolio, but I have work in my portfolio that I did in 2021 that I've been paid for as recently as like October 2023. So it does work. It might not work the first time, might not work the second time. You might feel uncomfortable do it. It might feel like a step outside of your comfort zone, and it might feel like you're not ready to do this yet, but whatever kind of freelancer you are, I would encourage you to learn about licensing law for wherever it is you live. Start asking those questions, change your perception of your work from just being a JPEG or just being a PNG file to being intellectual property, and you can take a really helpful step toward increasing your income from design. If you're in the UK, there is a gov.uk sort of page for intellectual property and licensing. I'm guessing America, like whatever European, American country you might be from, I know most people who watch my videos are from America or Europe, there will be a local government page or something about licensing for wherever it is you live. There are also some really good videos and resources that I will link to in the description for paperwork and contracts and how you actually enforce licensing. I'm obviously not legally, I have no qualifications. I don't even have a design qualification, never mind a legal qualification. So I can't give you like paperwork, but I can link to some places that can help with that. Also, depending on where you're from, I know definitely in the UK, you can speak to a lawyer or a solicitor usually for an hour or 30 minutes for free. So yeah, if you want to go and do your own research on how this actually works, first place I recommend looking is the gov.uk site or a government sort of resource for wherever it is you live. Speaking to someone local to you who knows laws for your country or your constituency or wherever you live, like a solicitor, for like a free consultation. And the resources by people like Harry Vinson or Jesse Nyberg, who've made videos and like Google documents about this type of thing. This type of video is kind of new for me. I've only made one video like this in the past, and I kind of hated it after I uploaded it, so I deleted it. But yeah, I thought I would share this because this stuff has been really helpful for me. I'm recording this at the end of June in England, and I don't have any air conditioning, and I'm boiling hot, so hopefully I don't look too red and sweaty in this video. But yeah, I hope this helped. Hope you learned something. Let me know if you've got any questions. If there are any other freelance topics you would like me to cover on the channel, let me know. If you like this type of content, I post this type of thing on Instagram all the time. I'll link my Instagram page in the description. Thank you for all the recent support on the channel. I'll see you in the next video.